What's going on, YouTube? This is Mark from Waist Deep Wade Fishing, Southwest Florida. Just want to say hello to everybody, and again, thank everybody that's out there that's been showing me support, tuning into the channel. So today we want to talk about redfish, and we're going to talk about how to find redfish on the grass flats. Now, the first thing we want to do, and if there's one available to you that's close by, if there's a grass flat close to a shoreline that has mangroves, mangroves around the shoreline, well, that's the first one you want to go to, especially if it's got potholes. Now, that's going to be your best chance to getting those redfish. Now, anyone can go out there and walk a grass flat and see a couple of redfish tailing. I mean, that's obvious. You see them tailing, you throw a lure at it. Okay, but what if you go out there and it's a beautiful day and the water is nice and calm, but you don't see not one fish tailing? What do? How do you find them? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So, the first thing we want to do, okay, is again go out to a grass flat that's close to you, one that you know of, that you don't have to use a boat to get to. All right, this is for wade fishing. Get there preferably on, a low tide. Even on that low tide, if it's got at least a foot of water over that pothole, there's a chance that there could be a redfish sitting in it. You may not see it if the water's not clear enough. But hey, when you're out there, when you're fishing with artificials, you're casting 100, 200, 300, 500, 1,000 times in the course of a day. The more times that lure's in the water, the more chance that you have of catching a fish. So now, once you're out there, what you want to do, and this is number 2. When walking that flat, look for life. Look for birds diving, birds circling. While you're walking that grass flat, look around if there's any type of pinfish swimming, if there's greenbacks, aka pilchards or whitebait, swimming through that grass, if there's shrimp popping on the top, if there's crab around, if there's lots of blue crab as you're walking, you see the crab scurry off, and especially if there's mullet. Okay, so those are that's the things you want to look for. Okay, that sign of life. If you don't see any of those things on that grass flat, well, start moving. Keep on walking, get to another part and get to another area of that grass flat until you can find some of those things. The next thing, and this is number 3, and I look for this, every time I'm out there, especially when that tide is coming in. Find the mullet schools. If you find the mullet school, you will find the redfish, period. Okay, what happens is usually these redfish will follow the mullet, because as the mullet schools come through, what they're doing is, they're rooting around in that grass, okay? But they're not eating the shrimp, they're not eating the crab, they're not eating the pilchards. What they're doing is looking around for nutrients and algae. That's what they feed on. Well, while they're doing that, everything that's in that grass, okay, is going to scurry off. It's going to get scared because they think that's a predator coming to eat them. So the redfish are very smart. Well, what they'll do is the redfish will stay, 5, 10, maybe 15 yards behind that school. So as that school is moving through on that grass flat, and you see that, what you want to do is take your lure, your plug, your spoon, your soft plastic, whatever you're throwing, and cast that 10 to 15 yards behind that mullet school. And chances are, I'm going to say 7 out of 10 times, if you do that, you are going to hook into a redfish, especially on an incoming tide, because those redfish are going to be pushing closer to shore. So now I want to talk about another subject: ambush points. And this is topic number 4. You want to look for ambush points such as small sandbars, bottlenecks, Okay, if you're walking a mangrove line, when you see that mangrove line come to a point, okay, fish are going to stay on that point. Okay, they're going to use that point to hide. So as that tide is coming in, they're going to stay behind that point. And as soon as that bait gets swept around that point, bam, those redfish are going to come out and start attacking. Okay, also I want you to look for drop-offs. While you're walking through this flat, feel around with your feet, look around. If you see little spots that you start walking into, all of a sudden it goes from maybe 2.5, 3 feet, and then there's a drop-off to 5 feet, well, that's an ambush point. Any type of contour change on the ground is going to be used for a redfish, an ambush predator, to sit and hide and wait for the bait to come to them. Why expend energy if you don't have to? And that's what that's how they work. They'll go and chase down a bait, but if they don't have to use that energy, they won't. Now you can also use, again, and I talk about this all the time. You can use Google Maps, Bing Maps, satellite imaging to see these contours. If you pick an area that you want to go try out and you don't know it that well, go to Google Maps, pan around the area. You'll see the sand potholes. You'll see these little patches of sand. It'll be grass and then just a little hole with sand in it. Okay, sometimes they're faint, sometimes they're bright. When they're really, really bright, that means it's shallow water. If they're very, very faint, that means that it's deep water. Okay, so don't confuse that. So you want to look for those things, and all of those aspects, okay, out there are going to help you, especially when you're planning to target a new area. And if you're a wade fisherman like me, God only knows. There's only so many spots that we could get into by foot. We live in Florida, and a lot of the land has been, built up, so it's very, very hard. But the spots that we can get into, especially on the West Coast, are very, very productive. And one of the best ways to target trout and redfish is wading. If you ask any of the captains, any pro fisherman out there, and you say to them, what's the best way to catch these fish? And they'll say, park your boat 50 yards up the grass flat, get in the water and start wading. Reason being, when you're in the water, you're more quiet. You can pick apart an area. Okay, you don't have to worry about the boat making noise. You don't have to worry about the trolling motor. You don't have to worry about the wind blowing you as you're drifting. Even if you use an anchor, that anchor clanking, all that lets fish know, oh, there's something in the area that shouldn't be. But if you walk through the area nice and slow and keep your noise to the minimum, I guarantee you 100% you will be very successful at catching redfish and trout on these flats. Now, snook is a little bit different, but that's another day. But we're targeting redfish today. So the next thing I would like to talk about, and this is number 5, and this is probably the most important. Tides. Okay? Redfish love low tide. They love it. Okay? They can come in and ambush prey using those potholes. Okay? Because the water is so skinny. So let's just say you had grass all up like this and then a little pothole right here. Well, what's going to happen? The fish is going to sit inside that pothole, and here's the grass. Well, a little shrimp's going to be coming along, or a pinfish. He's going to be swimming through that grass. All of a sudden, he's going to come to that edge of that pothole. That redfish is going to see him, and bam. So, knowing those ambush techniques that they use, put that into your game plan when you're out there wade fishing on the water. And if you follow what I'm telling you, I guarantee you, and you could put comments, underneath this video, whatever you want, you put them right down there. You go out and try what I'm telling you, and you come back here in a month and tell me you haven't caught a redfish or a trout using these techniques. I guarantee you 100% that you will. I've been using them for years, and you can go to my my pages. You can go to Waist Deep on Facebook. You could go to my Facebook, Mark Stride, and you can see all of my photographs. Now, unfortunately, I haven't been able to get the other video of me out there catching fish up and running yet. I still have tons of footage that I have to edit, but it's going to be up soon. So again, getting back to the redfish, always look for them when you go out there. That's the first thing you want to do. When you get out on that flat in the morning, that sun is coming up, that water's 75 to 80 degrees. You got a low tide, and you know that tide is coming in. Look and walk that flat, scan that flat back and forth quietly, and look for tailing redfish. If you don't see them, the next thing you want to look for is mullet. If you see the schools of mullet traveling up and down that flat, throw a lure 10 to 15 yards behind them. Now, once that tide comes all the way in, you've only got a short period of time, because what's going to happen is those redfish now, once that tide is up and that water is going into the mangroves, those redfish are going to go in the shade into those mangroves and stay within those mangrove roots and hunt and ambush in there. So chances are you're not going to catch them. So if you've learned anything today from what I'm speaking about, get to the flat on low tide. Look for tailing reds, look for mullet, look for contours, look for bait, look for birds. Now, if you follow all those steps, I guarantee you'll be successful at your next wade fishing trip. My name is Mark. I want to say thank you. God bless. Please hit the subscribe button down below. Show me some love. I'm trying to grow the channel.